Thank you very much for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central as we kick off the Monday and take steps into the month of December. Welcome to officially to the Christmas month with us here at Breakfast Central. I am Osalgie Ogbawa, and it promises to be another very interesting Monday morning with some of our top stories that we will be sharing with you today. But before that, as always, we encourage you to be a part of the program by simply joining us via social media platforms at News Central TV. Let us know your thoughts on any of the conversations that we're having. And also, you could, leave a comment in the YouTube comment section. Share your thoughts with us on these major conversations. Before we get into the meat of the Monday morning Breakfast Central, we normally like to share with you some of the top stories from the weekend, some things that we have been following, and some stories that emerged over the weekend that we didn't get to talk about. And the first one is, in the last couple of days, until, of course, I think on Saturday, there was a new hashtag on social media, Free Fisayo Soyombo, or Free Fisayo Now. And that was because investigative journalists with FIJ Nigeria was reportedly arrested by members of the Nigerian army. It created a buzz on social media and, of course, got a social media campaign running to ensure that he was released. The insinuation back then was that he was arrested maybe because of some investigative work that he was doing as a way to silence or to stop him. But eventually, in interviews that we saw over the weekend, it turns out that wasn't exactly true. Doesn't make it less damning, the eventual revelations from his arrest and then his release. Fisayo Soyombo, if you remember, has been in the news mostly because of investigative work that he's carried out. Fantastic investigative work, to be, I must say, that he's carried out in the last couple of years. From the motherless babies home, where he was able to rescue a baby or rather buy a baby. And eventually, of course, that case turned sour in the end. To, of course, cases showing himself getting imprisoned just to show the corruption in Nigeria's criminal justice system and what happens in our prisons, to eventually, of course, the Good Morning Customs trend, if you remember that as well. That also became very popular, very viral. Until date, Nigerians have still not heard anything from the Nigerian Customs Service or from the Nigerian government to show that they are truly investigating the allegations of corruption in the Nigerian customs. But here's the thing, and this is the part that always gets interesting. Just like the investigative work that he was carried out, because apparently Fisayo Soyombo is completely busy. He's doing numerous investigative, works at the same time. So while he was doing customs, he's also investigating oil bunkering in the Niger Delta region, and that's where he got arrested. The hashtags eventually started on social media, and it was released. In an interview over the weekend, he then gave details concerning his arrest, eventually, stated that he wasn't arrested. He instead went with the, members of the soldiers of the Nigerian army while they, of course, were investigating oil bunkering that had taken place. And from what he said, it seems like one person didn't tell the other person, and there was an information breach, that led to, that bust taking place, and them being arrested. But the main challenge here, it's pretty much the same thing, which is the fear and the allegations of corruption within the system, not just the army, but also in the police and in the Air Force and in, our fight against terrorism and our fight against corruption and, our customs and immigration. The fact that there seems to be people within that system that are working with these alleged, terrorists and smugglers and oil bunkerers. Because according to Fisayo Soyombo, the information that he shared with members of the Nigerian army, I think he was at Zone 6, that same information was leaked out to these same smugglers that he was investigating. So the people that, and if you remember if you watched the interview, he said, that the army was, members of the army were angry with him for not letting them know that he was going to be carrying out that investigative work. It's meant to be a secret. And so the reason that he didn't share it with them in the first place was because he didn't trust them. He didn't know who to tell or who to trust in that whole space. And eventually, his fears were proven to be right. And of course, he eventually said, that the information that he shared with the army eventually got back to the smugglers or to the oil bunkers because they called him to say to him and tell him the exact same things that he had just revealed while speaking with members of the, the Nigerian army. News Central itself has reached out to spokespersons of the Nigerian army via a telephone, but, we didn't get, a proper response. We didn't get through, and we will try again and again to see if we can get a, balance to the story and get them to also share, their views on these very, very strong allegations. Now, away from that story over the weekend, something also happened on Friday with the declaration of the United States of Biafra. This happened on Friday in Finland by, associates and I believe, friends of Simon Ekpa, who's currently under arrest in Finland. They declared the United States of Biafra and, of course, named 40 states in the United States of Biafra, which included, Igodomigodo state or some of that sort, amongst other, southern Nigerian states here in the country. This, of course, created its own buzz, its own, conversations across the whole weekend, with many people also reacting to the United States of Biafra, including the IPOB, which has, of course, denounced this declaration of Biafra in Finland. They, of course, distanced themselves from the incident and, of course, said that Biafra cannot be declared twice, as it had already been declared by the late Chief Odumegwu Ojukwu in 1967, and since then, there would not be a new declaration of Biafra. They've also said that they would rather have the United Nations declare Biafra for them, as, that is the proper way that it should be done. But it's not just the IPOB. If you look at the reactions from many people across social media, a lot of people also condemn this. There's not very many people who you saw across the social media space who were in support of this or support of any of this. The IPOB also said that these persons in Finland are allegedly the ones who are sponsoring the unrest and the insecurity in southeastern Nigeria. If we've seen the emergence of the ESN and some of all these groups that have allegedly carried out, different levels of violence and attacks, enforcing sit-at homes in the southeastern part of the country, and also attacks on security forces in the southeastern part of the country. There's many allegations as to the emergence of unknown gunmen and who is funding them, where they're from. But as much as, we know, and of course, till the Nigerian government carries out a proper, sincere investigation, these will remain allegations, and, we will continue to speculate as to who really has caused the violence in the southeast. Is it those who are funding the, United States of Biafra in Finland, or is it, other, players that are here in Nigeria? And of course, the main question really is, what does the declaration really mean in Finland? What does that mean? Is that, does that mean that there is a new country now called Biafra? Will people be paying taxes to this new country? Will they have a president? Will they have a, chief justice? Will they have their own national assembly? Will they have, there's too many questions that need to be asked and need to be answered, as regards, what this really means. And, how does this also affect the, likes of Simon Ekpa and Nnamdi Kanu, and what role would they maybe also play? Who are these new faces that have emerged as the faces of the United States of Biafra in Finland? Will they spread to other parts of the world? Will they also have, embassies, maybe, in other parts of the world? Just too many questions that need to be asked. But as it stands, the IPOB has denounced this declaration and said that there will not be two declarations of Biafra, stating that, of course, the Ojukwu had already declared one of them. And of course, the final trending story over the weekend is once again the tax reform bill, where, of course, the conversations have continued. The reps, of course, eventually went ahead, to have a debate. And of course, there are more northern governors putting pressure on the presidency. The interest of northern governors, of course, opposing the tax reform bills, mostly because they have concerns because of the derivation-based model for the value-added tax distribution. Many people have said that it's meant to actually benefit northern Nigeria, not, be a problem for northern Nigeria. And maybe this is a time when northern leaders need to look inward and look out for ways that they can make their regions benefit more from this tax reform bill instead of, shooting it down. And so there's potential consequences that we will definitely look into of suspending the tax reform bill. and of course the consequences that it would have on Nigeria's economy, amidst many other aspects that we would be x-raying. It's a conversation that's gone on for the last 2 weeks, but it would definitely continue getting into this week as we continue to look at the little details and how eventually the Nigerian government, or the National Assembly rather, will treat the tax reform bill going forward. These are our top stories of the weekend. It's been a very interesting weekend. Welcome once again to Breakfast Central on a Monday morning. Now, just before we bring you breakfast headlines, let's quickly share with you what our top stories are for today. This morning, NAFDAC and Lagos Commissioner disagree over sachet water video. And of course, you know, the latest story is concerning that Julius Abure pleading with Peter Obi and Governor Oti and other aggrieved members to return to the party. Riverine Yoruba group raises alarm over ocean surge challenges. We're going to be speaking about that as well. And also IPOB disowns Biafra redeclaration in Finland. We'll also be looking through the newspapers this morning, sharing with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria today. Nigeria's former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has called for transparency, fairness, and inclusivity in the legislative process towards the ongoing tax reform bills. In a statement on Sunday, Atiku urged lawmakers to ensure the reforms promote balanced development across all states, warning against policies that could worsen regional inequalities. He emphasized the need for a fiscal system rooted in justice and equity. And also in the news, President Bola Tinubu will leave France on Monday for Cape Town, South Africa, to co-chair the 11th session of the Nigeria-South Africa Bi-National Commission alongside President Cyril Ramaphosa. The presidential BNC, scheduled for Tuesday, December 3rd, will be preceded by a ministerial meeting on December 2nd, 2024, at the South African Parliament building in Cape Town. Tinubu and Ramaphosa will engage in substantive talks on a wide range of issues of mutual interest, including bilateral, regional, and international matters. And out of politics, the camps of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate Peter Obi have dismissed rumors of discussions for a joint ticket ahead of the 2027 presidential election. Speculation erupted on social media after photos surfaced of Atiku hosting Peter Obi for breakfast at his residence in Adamawa. Atiku later shared a video of the meeting on his official X account. The footage showed both leaders seated at a dining table, accompanied by others ready to share a meal. Now, staying with politics, a House of Representatives member, Ikenga Ugochinyere, has alleged plans for a major merger ahead of Nigeria's 2027 elections. Speaking in his Idiato hometown, Ugochinyere accused some PDP leaders of secretly collaborating with the APC to weaken the opposition. He revealed that discussions for a strong alliance aimed at unseating the APC are underway, emphasizing the need to protect the PDP's structure. Ugochinyere called out those engaging what he described as childish politics and urged party stakeholders to stay resilient. Also in the news, the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, has ordered an investigation into allegations of salary deductions affecting paramilitary officers in the country. According to an online report, some officers expressed concerns over deductions from their salaries by the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System. They complained about the delays in the payment of promotion arrears as well. In a statement released on Sunday, Ahmed Jafaru, the Secretary of Civil Defense, Correctional, Fire and Immigration Services Board, gave the impacted officers the assurance that an inquiry had been initiated to find out what caused the purported deductions. Now, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has urged President Bola Tinubu to direct the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Olawale Edun, and the Accountant General of the Federation, Oluwatoyin Sakirat Maiden, to disclose the specific names of the companies and contractors who collected over 167 billion naira from 31 ministries, departments, and agencies, but failed to execute any projects. Now to security matters, armed terrorists attacked Kungurki community in Kaurad, Namoda, Zamfara state, killing an elderly man and abducting 13 people, including a mother and a 2-month-old baby. Counterterrorism expert Zaga Zola Mekama revealed the attack occurred under the cover of darkness with gunfire spreading fear. The assailants also looted shops, stealing food, household items, and valuables. And that's all on Breakfast headlines. Let's now move back to Breakfast Central and get into our top stories. I am Osaogie Ogbawa.
Some residents of the Ilaje local government area of Ondo State have raised an alarm over the ocean surge, which has become a threat to their communities. While they say they are in dire need of government presence, some of them spoke to New Central Television, saying that they are in need of basic infrastructural necessities to make life easier for their communities. Amadine Uyi brings us more in this report.
The Ilajers are a distinct migratory group, forming part of the Yoruba ethnic group. The Ilajers are spread along the states of Ondo, Ogun, Lagos, and Delta, residing mainly along the coastal belts, beaches, and swampy terrains of the Atlantic. While their exact number is still not known, the Ilaje local government area of Ondo State is, however, the largest local government area in terms of landmass.
Ilaje has been here since AD session. I can't really picture the year because my great-great-grandfather have been existing and I don't know their age. So that means if I'm to say they have been existing more than 200 years.
A visit to Obenla community at the Ilaje local government area reveals a people in need of government presence. With their entire communities now fully on water, one resident says that their way of life has gradually been altered following two notable events: the discovery of oil and the gradual sea incursion into their communities.
Before the event of oil derivation and the sea incursion, Ilaje is a very boom. We don't depend on government's money. We spend on daily money. We go to sea, we catch fish, we spend as a large person.
For the Ilajers, it's water, water, water. Their houses are built on water. Their communities exist on water. But don't be deceived. Despite water being in abundance, they say they don't have water to drink. They say while water is a blessing to many communities, it's the root of their problems.
A walk around their communities reveal a people trying to survive. Some residents reel out a list of their necessities to government.
We people that live here, we are suffering. So we need a network. Network, they suffer us very well. Sometimes a week or a month, we don't see network for here.
We need plenty things for this community. We need bridge. We need so many houses. So this ourselves, we don't get house. Some people want to leave this community now. There's no house. So we need new house, a new bridge that is coming from there.
The Ilajers say these needs, when provided, will help them integrate properly into the society. In Abuja for New Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
A very necessary story that needs to be told, but a very heartbreaking one, to see the reality of the fact that there are still some people that live in these kind of despicable conditions, we'll say. But we hope that, that report shines the light and that the government steps up to its responsibility. Now let's move away from that story and report to share with you what's happening with the Labour Party. The national chairman of the Labour Party, Julius Abure, has called on the party's 2023 presidential candidate, Peter Obi, Abia State Governor Alex Oti, and other disenchanted members to reconcile and return to the party. This is according to the Punch newspaper. Now, Abure sought to address internal discord stemming from his re-election at a controversial convention in Nnewi, which some party stakeholders criticized as not being inclusive. This dispute led Obi, Oti, and other party figures to establish a 29-member caretaker committee in July, chaired by former Finance Minister Nnamdi Usman, to oversee a fresh round of elections for party executives.
Now, however, of course, you might recall that a federal high court ruling in Abuja upheld Abure as a legitimate national chairman. It has intensified efforts to mend fences with the aggrieved party members. It says, in quote, that there is no more crisis in the party, insisting that the court had resolved the leadership disputes. Now, joining us is the Lagos State spokesperson for the Labour Party, Ife Salako. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you.
Great. Good to see you.
Yeah. Let's start with the perceived crisis in the party. The court ruling has once again declared Julius Abure as a leader of the party. You know, does it stay like that, or do we expect that it would still be challenged? Is he recognized across the party as the leader?
Well, the thing about the leadership of any group is whatever happens. I mean, we had an election in this country, and at the end of the day, the courts declared that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the president, and he's still the president. So there is nothing more. I keep saying it here that everybody that I know and that I respect in the Labour Party are law-abiding citizens, of Nigeria. And so when the court rules, we stay with the court ruling. So as it is, I mean, there is nothing anybody can do about it, whether you like it or not. At the moment, Abure remains the legitimate chairman of the Labour Party.
So if Julius Abure remains the legitimate chairman of the Labour Party, what then becomes of the moves that have been made? For example, the caretaker committee chaired by Senator Nnamdi Usman, does it still stand? Especially because, if you recall, Julius Abure kicked against it and he did not endorse it at all. So what then becomes of that committee?
Well, so, I mean, whether they like it or not, if Abure, for example, remains, the chairman of the party, which cannot be forever, there has to still be some people that will still look at this whole thing and say, okay, at this point, we still need to get to, find a way to resolve the internal crisis of the party. So the committee, as it were, will still exist. They will still continue to do their own thing. But it is, and like it was said, it's not like they, relinquishes the existing executive of the party. It was just pretty much come together, resolve this crisis, and let's find a way forward. And at the time, we must note that, INEC was not even recognizing Abure as the legitimate chairman of the party. So it was, a bit of, we're looking for solution on this side. There should be another way to look at it. But the court has come to say, okay, Abure remains the chairman of the party, and that's what is, obtainable right now.
So yes, the court has, stated that he is the chairman.
Yeah.
But again, I'm asking about the grievances within the party.
Yeah.
Where are we with that? Do the people, Alex Otis and the likes, still have the same challenge that they had with Julius Abure?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's still, when things like this happen, not until everybody comes to the table and begin to, put these issues on the table and start dissecting it one after the other to find a way, and then to find a new path at which we'll all move ahead from. So there's still some bit of I'm not agreeing with you here, you're not agreeing with me there, but one of the things that I would like to point out is the fact that even for someone like Governor Alex Oti, who had gone ahead, allegedly to, run a local government election, with his loyal candidates under another umbrella of another party, under the umbrella of another party.
Yeah.
He goes on to say that, I mean, there's not too much of your own integrity. I did say before the election that I was looking forward to seeing if Alex Oti was going to have a free and fair local government election. right? Because you see, the reality of it is that presently in Nigeria, there is no local government election, as it were. It is usually the governors that just decide who they want to lead at different local level, which doesn't actually truly represent, what we call a democracy in Nigeria. So if Alex Otti is on one side, taking members of the Labour Party to a different party for them to run, for a local government election, what is the difference? What is he fighting for? What is he standing for? Really. So, well, the issues are still there, but I know that at some point everybody will come to the table and we'll know where we're going to.
All right, speaking of everybody coming to the table, you can't move forward without resolving the current crisis. And also get asked if the issues that OT and all the other party members had against him were still valid. One of the complaints that was leveled against Julius Abure was by the former National Treasurer, Oluchi Okpara, who had spoken about him trying to induce her with a car, the allegations of bribery. And all those allegations, yes, they may have defended or disputed them, but will these allegations be investigated? And if these allegations are to be investigated, who will investigate it? A party cannot be a judge in his own cause. Julius Abure cannot leave the party and also investigate himself. So what will the Labour Party do about investigating these allegations, or will they even be investigated at all?
Well, I mean, that will be left to the National Executive Council of the party. Largely, they are the ones that have the power to say, the chairman, come here, come and give us accounts, as to what you have done and, what you have, how you have spent the money and all of that. So it will be the derogatory of the National Executive Council of the party. But while at that, right, one of the problems of Labour Party right now and all this old leadership Buhari is because there's not been proper progress and structure of the party from the grassroots. So the party was existing like every other party before the arrival of IPOB, like we all know. And then now it is more structured in a way that almost everybody at different levels, from the state to the local government and even the ward level, are all appointed executives, except for Abure and some of the executives who were at the party before the arrival of His Excellency. So quite a number of people there are just on appointment. So what can really structure and bring a proper sanity to this whole thing is for us to have a Congress at the ward level, take it from the ward level to the local government level, take it to the state, right? And then we will now have a robust national convention. Abure could emerge from that convention and be retained as the chairman. And that way, you don't need the courts at that point to authenticate anything. It is, everybody sees that. But the problem is that everybody knows right now that, including myself sitting here, is an appointment. We're all on appointment. We need to go back and do the right thing from the grassroots, all the Congress, from the ward level to the local government to the states, and then we have a robust national convention, and everybody is fine. So it is a technical issue right now that has to be dealt with carefully. And I know political office holders, they are also very careful to say, I go into Congress, I may lose my position. So it's the same way that you may be looking at some things at the higher level, maybe at the National Assembly or where they would want to also vet the right thing, all because they know that it may affect them. But one way or the other, we know we will get to that point, and it must be done.
Yeah. So, I mean, the crisis in the party, I believe I can say that, has lasted quite a while.
Yeah.
How badly do you think it has affected the party? And do you think that they would, Labour Party will ever be able to find its, strong footing again like it did in 2023 during the elections? If you look at what happened in Edo State, your candidates, I don't know what word to describe, the turnout, for him. Pretty much the same thing in Ondo State's elections. Is Labour Party, back to where it was prior to 2023?
Right. So, for the presidential election, it will be a different ballgame entirely. And the reason is because we've seen it in the past. I mean, it's the presidential election in Nigeria. It's usually magical the way it sparks, different kind of fires and all. But the party itself, right, will need to do a lot to gain the trust of the people.
Julius Abore was he in Benin for your candidate?
He wasn't. I mean,
was he in Ondo for your candidate?
Well, I mean, it's all of these are relative. I mean, it's not because other parties do it, because we find parties, going up and down to say, this is my candidate, you have to vote for him. It shows the spirit of, the camaraderie spirit, but I mean, we are one and we are supporting each other, but it does not necessarily interpret to whether you're going to win election or not really in the sense of it, right? So, I mean, making it look like whether it was there or not.
If your own party's leadership doesn't come to support you, why should anybody vote for you?
Well, I mean, it's because my party leadership, their job literally almost ends at the time that I get my ticket at the primary level. That is what the party is supposed to do, to look for the right candidates, take them through the preliminary exercise of coming out to contest. And when it is done, I go on the field to contest with other candidates. I mean, these are not things that are common in developed countries where you find the chairman of the party. You even at least sometimes know who these people are.
Right.
So it's not really, but that it is a thing for us in this part of the world does not interpret to winning election. I understand the fact that, okay, of course you are part of this party, you should come out and support the party and work for the party. It is at the point I left Lagos when I was in my former party. I left Lagos, I went to Osho State to support a candidate. I was there for like 4 days. It is by choice.
It's not mandatory.
It's not mandatory.
Right. Yeah. However, we can't deny the fact that it has become the norm. It's like an unwritten norm where even we see the vice president still travel to support party representatives who are running for office. But let's move away from the conversation and quickly, as much as we can, Peter Obi. It's not possible to talk about the Labour Party without talking about Peter Obi. Julius Abure has said they can all come back. And we're wondering, did they ever leave the party in the first place?
Well,
so, we haven't really heard much about Peter Obi's stance, and, we're wondering what his position is or might be regarding all that's been going on with the Labour Party and the projections for 2020.
So when I saw the headline, Abure invites Peter Obi, Alex Abure to come back to the party. I think it was a statement that was misconstrued because Peter Obi, Alex Oti never left the party, right? I think that statement would be for the likes of Balami, the likes of Okonkwo, who had declared that they are leaving the party, that it is now time for them to come back to the party. His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi had never at any point in time, up until this moment, say that, I am no longer a member of the party. Even if he had gone to have a breakfast with,
Alhaji
Atiku Abubakar, we know that, it was just on the invitation for him to, present a speech at the university. But Mr. Peter Obi, Governor Alex Oti, as I speak right now, and as much as I know, and as much as we all know, they are still very much members and strong representative of the Labour Party right now.
I think that
statement is not where I'm going, is that statement is not directly for Peter Obi and the likes of the people that we think. It is for those people that have declared that they are not interested in the party anymore. It is time for them to come back.
And you think that they'll be willing to accept the leadership of Julius Abure?
Well, also whether they will be willing to accept. You see, that you want to accept the leadership of a particular person or not does not really interpret to how much you're committed to the cause of the party. If you are in the party, it's like our schools, maybe our alumni schools. You will be there. Sometimes they may appoint somebody that you don't like to be the leader of the school. Would you say, oh, I'm no longer a member of this school because, you would be there. You will fight the cause. You will stay there and say, yes, this is what we want. This is the right thing. Fight the cause while you are there. Don't go outside and start saying that, oh, you don't want because of the leadership. Yeah. Would you stop being in Nigeria because President Tinubu is president of Nigeria and you don't like him?
But we can't not point out the obvious crisis that the party has faced in the last couple of months.
Absolutely.
You've had Kenneth Okonkwo, break out and completely, speak against the party. Donyo Kupe is practically supporting, President, Tinubu at this point. Thaddeus Atta, your Etiosa local government representative, is wearing the president's insignia on his head. I mean, how do you have a party that you still claim to be seemingly put together with all these factors here and there? Your elections in the last, 2 state elections you've had have been the poorest that we've seen in a long time.
Well, so let's not forget that the Labour Party is like a renewed, party. It's just coming back together. See, this party is too young for us to expect that we're just going to, start living and start exploiting all of the, putting everything together. No, we would get there. There would always be this crisis. The established parties, as we know them, they have their crisis right now. And they may not be pronounced, but we know that the Labour Party's own will be pronounced. But we would get to resolve all of them and we would move past them.
All right, Ife Salako, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you the best and we wish the Labour Party all the best.
The Labour Party remains one family.
Okay, if you say so. All right, let's move on to another conversation. A trending video that you see on your screen circulated on social media in the past 48 hours. The video allegedly shows unknown enforcement officers destroying sachets of water, popularly called pure water, here in Nigeria. Remember that in the past few days, there has been scarcity of the sachet water in different parts of Lagos. Now, reacting to this video of some persons bursting sachet water packs, Lagos Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, said that the Lagos State government has not banned and also does not have any plan to ban the use or sale of sachet water, popularly known as pure water. He has said that it was officials of NAFDAC, that's the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control. However, NAFDAC, on the other hand, responded by saying that it wasn't their officials or enforcement team. And that's the tweet there. Now, while we await authentic information regarding Lagos State's investigation on the individuals taking laws into their hands, many are asking why pure water has become a cause for worry. Are there environmental hazards that Nigerians should know about? And could this be the major cause of concern between the government and authorities? We'll find out as we have joining us the chairman of the board, Sustainable Green Environment Initiative, Dr. Somi Olowoshile. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, blessings. It's good to be here.
All right. We'll go into the conversation proper after this break.
Bust everything flat.
We are flooding this place. Because this water will not flow out here. I told you I will close here, then I will no more sales. Why are you doing this? The whole water will flood the whole compound. I've explained to you, this water was not produced today.
But it seems that you have a personal problem with these people.
What about these people? They will come. They will talk, they don't go walk. They say they get time.
And that there is a video that has gone viral, and even though there are multiple denials about who were behind that, we're not quite clear as to who these people are and what their motive is. But we're joined by the chairman of the board, Sustainable Green Environment Initiative, Dr. Somi Olowoshile. Sir, when you saw that video, let's get your first thoughts as to what your reactions were and who you maybe thought might have been behind that video.
Thank you, Oli and Mr. Roger. It's good to be here again today. With that clip that we just watched, you would even hear the woman at the tail end of the video mentioning that the water was not produced that same day. And just with some of my few experiences, because I have a factory very close to me here, which also I attend to. I go in there regularly. And just some few days ago, when I went there to get some water for myself, they were closed, they were shut down. And I was made to understand that the reason for the shutdown was because they had a strike action that was induced by the Association of Table Water Producers of Nigeria or thereabouts. So it's an association issue, and they were supposed to be on strike. So for anyone who was not actually obeying the association rule and regulation at that time, I think that what they did was go into some of those factories and they started destroying their produce, which of course they had at the time. And same thing applies to some of the trucks that you see outside there. So those ones that still went ahead to still be selling, even though the strike action has been ordered, you would see some of these association guys coming around to probably destroy what they had that they were going to deliver to some of the customers. As against some of the different opinions that have been flying around, and of course, Lagos State Ministry of Environment and Water Resources coming out through the commissioner, trying to say that it's NAFDAC, and NAFDAC coming around to say, no, it's not us, and you know, a whole lot of this misinformation that probably might have gone out there. Yes, it's obvious now because Ministry of Environment and Water Resources has disclaimed that it's not there. Their order for some of those atrocities to be committed, same as NAFDAC. NAFDAC came out and said it's not due to any regulation or action that is coming from outside. And of course, that leads us to the aspect of looking at only the associations being responsible solely for this type of things that actually happen. And it's very, very uncalled for. I mean, definitely there probably would be the different reasons for whatever it is they have done. But one of the singular reasons that actually spiked the strike action is the fact that the association is requesting all of these producers to have a sticker. I will tell you that the sticker that they requested them to have is even less than 1,500 naira if you want to print it. And they are requesting them to paste those stickers on their vehicle, and they want each individual of those vehicles to be charged or to pay 100,000 naira annually for those stickers. And that's what's actually causing the spike in the price, even though right now you would see that some of those pure water sachet trucks are now on the road and they're still disbursing, but you would see that what they're doing now is selling at double the price that they were selling before the strike action actually happened in the first place. I mean, these are some of the things that is very important to be addressed, and this is where the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources need to now take some very serious drastic measures and action to be able to see that all of these are not, we're talking water, potable water here. I mean, it's saddening that we are where we are today, sincerely. If you ask me, I will tell you it's saddening that we're where we are today. It is the sole responsibility of the government to produce potable water for its citizenry. I mean, this is where we are. We are at the point where we're not even seeing this water being produced by the government. At my area, there's no even infrastructure in place.
Yeah, I want that we expatiate a little bit on that, you know, and that is the, you know, ability for the Lagos State government to provide clean water for its residents across the state. The reason that many people found this very uncomfortable was because, I mean, these sachet water bags were what many people used to bathe and many people used to cook, you know, for their daily activities. There's parts of Lagos that you don't expect that the water would be clean. And so how much do you think that the Lagos government needs to take responsibility for its own failure to provide clean water for residents across the state?
Fantastic. Talking about how much they need to take responsibility. I mean, it's 100% the government's responsibility to provide potable water for its citizenry. There are no gainsaying about it. If you now decide from your own comfort that says, I still want to go ahead to get potable water, irrespective of the fact that I have pipe-borne water running into my household or into my compound, that's a different conversation altogether. But we pay tax, and the reason why we pay tax is to get basic societal amenities. And one of the very critical one is water supply. I mean, how do you expect individuals to live without water? It was a very difficult period for those maybe 2-3 days of not selling for some of those potable waters on the citizens. You would discover that a whole lot of, in fact, to just give a typical example, at this same time, nick of time, it was recorded that 2 dead bodies were lying along Ibeju Epe Expressway. And some findings mentioned that they probably might have died because of hunger in the land and thirst. I mean, this is just staring right in our faces, and we can see the repercussion of some of these actions. Is it until everybody dies that the government will need to wake up? I mean, when we're talking about the government, we're talking about people who actually we pay as citizens to work for us. So now the narrative and the conversation has actually flipped over the years. Now we are getting to the point where everybody actually has to do SAR for the government, whereas it's supposed to be the government doing SAR for the citizens. That's where we are today, and it's very disheartening. These are some of the basic amenities that, whether we like it or not, the government is expected to produce and provide for its citizenry.
Unfortunately,
I mean, it's just very disheartening.
Unfortunately, that's not the reality that we have here in Nigeria regarding the access to potable water, especially if you look at even those on, not just on the island, really even on the mainland in Lagos. It's a bit of a struggle. It's why many people will resort naturally to what we refer to as pure water. Now, the environmentalists and the activists would argue that these pure water should be banned because of the impact of plastic on our environment. But others would argue, saying, if you ban it, then what next? What other alternatives do people have? But they will make reference to, the activists will make reference to countries like Rwanda, Namibia, and all these other countries that have clear-cut policies where you either cannot bring in plastic or use plastic, or if you have to, you pay for the plastic. So, talk to us about the implication of plastic on the environment. Is this a conversation that Nigeria should be having? And if yes, how do we find the balance between ensuring that we put legislation or policies to protect the environment, but also not at the detriment of the citizens?
Fantastic question. Excellent, actually, not just fantastic. Right? Talking about the environmental impact, which of course is one of the areas where I stand. I preach green. I talk about sustainability. I talk about the green environment generally. And when we're talking about sachet water here, when we're talking about PETs, plastic bottles, and all of that, it is not gainsaying that this actually poses, this material actually poses significant environmental risk. Millions of discarded sachets primarily causes like pollutions, blockage of drainage system, of course, aquatic ecosystem. Then we will get to the point now that we're beginning to see plastic in placentas of humans. And it's very, how would I use the word? It's scary. So when we're talking about plastic in itself, how much it takes to degrade from the environment, these are real environmental issues. However, when we are talking about environmental issues, it's also very important that we put into perspective the cost-benefit analysis of this conversation that we're having today. Because we are already where we are. It's not that we're going there. We are already here. So now it's about how do we move from here? Not just abruptly stop everything, not just want to abruptly ban it, and people do not have any other means to be able to cater for themselves. And at the end of the day, it's causing people to die off. What we're trying to do in the first place is try to make people to be sustainable in the environment they live in. So when we're talking about the environmental, we're talking about the people, because it's about the protecting the environment for the people. It's not other way around. It's not protecting the environment, the environment and neglecting the people. It's supposed to be that the environment is well protected so that it will be able to service the people and make us comfortable, right? So the entirety of the question still revolves around the people. So we need to put the interest of the people at first and not try to narrow it down to the benefits and the cost implication thereafter. So when we're talking about the benefit, for an example, potable water, when we're talking about sachet, most especially, because that's the one that majority of the, how would I use it, the common man uses as a means of potable water supply for themselves. So when you cut off this particular value chain, then you want to kill vast majority of everyone, right? So we can't do that. It's important that we put all of the perspectives that need to put in place. And some of those things revolve around the regulations that the government definitely can do in terms of policy enforcement. But the policy should be enforced with sense. I mean, they must enforce it in such a way that it probably it's done in sequential way by which they are providing alternative and they are trying to make people shift focus from wherever it is that we have at the moment. And they need to actually also enforce from the extended producer responsibility point of view. Right? Making manufacturer accountable for some of the recycling and proper waste management of the offshoots of their products. And now they can create a systemic value chain for some of these things. When we're talking about plastic, we're talking about recycling. There are organizations now that have already stepped up to be able to utilize some of these menace that we call menace right now, that it's already a raw material for them. Why do the government not look in the direction of providing a systemic value chain so that the people will be incentivized for using some of those plastic? When you return it, maybe for an example, initially 1,000 naira will give me maybe 5 bags of pure or sachet water.
I think there's already.
If I come back, okay.
I think Lawman, a few other people are already working, together in that. I think I've heard of something in that regard of some type of recycling that is already going on.
Yeah, there are organizations that do recycling.
But I want to, also ask about the associations now. The allegations that some of these moves that are being made are really just to ramp up the price, create some level of scarcity, ramp up the price as we get into the Ember month proper. Is this possible? And how do we get these sachet bags back to maybe 400 naira a bag or 300 naira?
If I get the question correctly, we're talking about the current action of the association.
Yeah.
And how probably the government
are these things being done as a way to ramp up the price, to create some level of scarcity, and then ramp up the price, as we get into Christmas?
Okay, to directly answer that, I would say I wouldn't know, but the truth of the matter is that the intention of some of these people are primarily not to help the public, because it's obvious, it's not been saying that right now it's not helping us. So whatever decision they have made, whatever action that the associations are putting out there, it's not helping us. It's not helping me as an individual. It's not helping my neighbor. It's not helping anybody. So I do not see any reason whatsoever why that action should even come in the first place. The most important thing is that the water that we're consuming must be properly hygienic, if that's the word, right? And that's the responsibility of NAFDAC, not the association. So if the association is coming to say you must have a particular sticker on your vehicle and they're charging a whooping 100,000 naira per truck of that, at the end of the day, who bears the cost? Because the producers will not bear that cost. Then we eventually shift it to the final consumer, and that's where we are. And that's also one important very conversation that the ministry, the government, let me use the word government now, that's the one conversation that governments need to tackle. They need to actually see into all of this and make sure that, in fact, we're complaining that the price has gotten to 200, it's getting to 250, now we are at 400. Where do we go from here? It's happening, and that's the truth. They need to put all of this association in check, and they are beginning to grow even greater wings than even some of government officials as we see now. And the same thing is happening with road transport workers as well. Let's not even go to that conversation as of today. But then, all of these associations are now getting to the points where they are almost uncontrollable. The government is just working one side, they are working the other side, and everybody is just working to make life more difficult for the people, for the common man. And
thank you for giving us perspective as to what exactly happened from your own personal experience. And this, of course, lays to rest the back and forth as to who did this and why did they do it.
Pretty embarrassing, you know,
very,
that
very.
NAFDAC doesn't know who's responsible, the commissioner doesn't know who's responsible. Very embarrassing.
No, I think anyway, let's not even go into all of that. But I'm hoping that having had this conversation, we can already admit that there's a problem and there's a challenge there, and that the government can step in to ensure that there is some regulation that occurs to ensure that life is made bearable for Nigerian citizens. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning. All right.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, that's it. You've heard it. It's the association drama, not NAFDAC, not the commissioner of, or not the government. And just to make it clear again, that the Lagos State government has said that they are not considering the ban of pure water, like we call it here. All right, we're going to break now, but before then, let's take you through a recap of the conversations we've had and also share with you what's coming up next this morning.
NAFDAC, Lagos Commissioner disagree over sachet water video. And also we spoke about Julius Abure while pleading with aggrieved members of the party to return. A riverine Yoruba group raises alarm over ocean surge challenges. But that's not all this morning. Let's share with you what's coming up next.
Coming up next on Breakfast Central, IPOB disowns Biafra redeclaration in Finland. And we have the newspaper front pages we'll be reviewing right next. And of course, Which Way Nigeria, our monologue that questions the conversations that need to be had.
Welcome back, and now let's get you through the newspapers this morning and share with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this Monday morning. We're joined by public affairs analyst Dotun Ojon. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
Good to have you.
All right, getting straight into it, we're going to begin on the, I believe, the Punch newspapers this morning. It says here, reps suspend debate indefinitely as northern governors mount pressure. And this is once again with regards the tax reform bill. The conversations, of course, continuing in the National Assembly. Also on the Punch this morning, minimum wage strike begins in 5 states and the FCT as panel meets. PH refinery, low-key operation begins. Marketers oppose 1,030 naira per litre. There's a bit of confusion with the Port Harcourt refinery. Over the weekend, there was also a report that said that it was empty or something of that sort, you know, that there was no longer any petrol in storage there or something. I'm not sure what exactly it said.
Yeah.
All right. Also, military retirees plan protest over unpaid entitlements. Mother and 2 children killed as arsonists set family ablaze in Lagos State. How Obasanjo rejected single-term presidency. Olani Pekun is in the news on the Punch this morning. And also, Swiss cement maker sells $1 billion stake in Lafarge. More of these companies, of course, seem to be exiting Nigeria. All right, those are the stories on the Punch newspapers this morning.
All right, let's move to the next paper. On the front page of the next paper, which is the Daily Trust, CBN to retire 1,000 offers, 50 billion naira payoff. They are offering 97 million naira for 4-year service. 17 sacked directors yet to be replaced. Federal government begins malaria vaccination for children today. Minimum wage, states race to beat NLC deadline. Obasanjo to go on. I never knew you asked Abacha not to kill me. Wow. Experts differ on impact of Tinubu's tax reform on North. That's been an ongoing conversation. Atiku Obi's parley in Yola reignites merger permutations. FSGRN reacts to Supreme Court lottery regulation judgment, unveils reciprocity licensing regime. That's all on the Daily Trust. Let's move to our next paper.
Final paper this morning, the Daily Times. Why Nigeria is underdeveloped, says Primate Ndu Kuba, says Nigeria is instrumental in transforming our continent. Tinubu Ramaphosa to co-chair 11th Binational Commission. Obasanjo tax Plateau residents on unity and love. Rate of accident on newly repaired 3rd Mainland Bridge worries federal government. And also this morning, tax reform bill, Atiku urges National Assembly to ensure transparency and objectivity in conducting public hearing. SEC assures investors of fund safety amid fintech growth. So generally, not very many major shocking stories. So, Mr. I think we should start with, have you just quickly share your thoughts on the, before we get into the newspapers, the declaration of is it the United States of Biafra?
USB.
Yes, USB.
When I hear USB before, I used to think of code. No.
That's the 21st century way of defining it. So when you hear USB, you're looking for flash drive or something.
Yeah.
The reality of the problem of the country will not be solved by dividing. Once you have a community where majorly the problem has to do with leadership, if you break that community, what you have done is to have created more complexity, because the problem of leadership failure will not disappear. The problem we have in the country majorly today is not that our land is not fertile. Lucky enough, it's not even natural disaster. We have just a few of it here and there. The question has been on leadership. And it's not totally the fault of the people there presently. Every community has what they call leadership principle. It's called leadership mindset. Unfortunately, no leader can outperform his mindset. So the problem, the question we should be asking is that, what is our own leadership mindset? And about 4 years ago, I did a 4-year research into the problem of leadership failure in Africa. And my team and I were able to identify that one of the major problems we have with leadership in Africa is what we call traditionalism. Traditionalism is the fact that when you go to the traditional ruler of your community, he expects that you bring something. So in Africa, the concept of leadership is more of receiving than giving. So somebody gets into political power, all he's thinking about is, how do I get from the people I am leading? Not necessarily, how do I deliver the dividend of democracy? And other side of it is that, if you get to my community now, once you install the Oba of my community, he rules throughout life. That's also the mindset we have brought into political leadership, that once they elect us, we just want to continue to win. It doesn't matter whether it's at the expense of anybody. So when you have a community that has a bit of leadership challenge, you see that when you divide that community, in your head, you may think, oh, when we divide, the problem is going to go away. But the reality is that when we do not solve a communal leadership failure, when we divide, we will complicate the communal leadership failure. So when people come out and say, oh, the cure to Nigeria problem is when everybody go their separate way, I quickly remind them that, don't we have people of your tribe in power at the moment? How are they performing? Don't we have people of my tribe in power at the moment? How are they performing? So nobody should continue to think that when we move away, we're going to have solution to our problem. But rather, we should continue to think that when we change our leadership mindset and do everything possible to get the best of us to rule the rest of us, then some of the problems that we agitate for will naturally disappear.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it turns out. I thought it was interesting to start with that. We will take a very short break and then come back and then speak on the tax reform bill and other things that have made the headlines this morning. Port Harcourt Refinery, of course, is still in the news. It says low-key operation begins as marketers oppose 1,030 naira per litre. The concerns that a few Nigerians have shared concerning the Nigeria-French bilateral, relations, that of course have once again been pushed by the current administration. So we'll talk about these things when we come, but let's go on a very short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. And now back to the conversations this morning surrounding Nigeria's newspapers. You can see a picture on the Daily Times newspapers this morning. The president, along with the Minister of Solid Minerals, and of course the French President Emmanuel Macron. There's a lot of conversations on the bilateral agreements that were signed in France in this latest visit. The Minister of Solid Minerals Development there, and of course the reports that there's been an MOU rather on solid minerals development between both countries during President Tinubu's official visit to France, amongst other things. Now, the reason that this is, I'm putting this question out is because many people had reacted when they saw the fanfare that, received Mr. President in France, with Chop My Money by P Square being sung in one corner, with the president wearing a fur jacket, with the FCT minister dressed in blue, what's it called, denim coats. It was so much. Yeah. But people have said, that Francophone Africa seems to be rejecting France. So why is Nigeria going, into a relationship with a country that most of Francophone Africa, seems to be turning their back on? And it's not because we cannot necessarily tell the reason that Francophone Africa is rejecting France. These reasons are pretty obvious. So are these fears legitimate, and is there anything wrong with having these concerns?
Okay. One of the things that one of the reasons why a lot of people support democracy is because they know conversations will continue to happen. In a community where conversations continue to happen, you have reduced the intensity of crisis in that community. So it is legitimate for people to come out to say, oh, we are worried, especially these people have known France more than we've ever known France.
Yeah.
But again, it's a gentle reminder I want to give this morning that when you vote for somebody, either as your local government chairman or as the state governor or as a president, people do not understand that immediately you vote for that person, his own personal direction will continue to be the direction of your nation. That's why election is very crucial and very sensitive. Whatever the president thinks at this point in time is what Nigeria thinks, either anybody likes it or not. So if the president has a personal relationship with somebody, and of course it's an argument we've had. I was on the floor of the Senate one time to defend a portion that has to do with giving contract to people. And one of the arguments we made at that Senate is that, come on, see, people that you elect into power are not going to give contracts to their enemies. They will probably, logically, give contract to the people they know.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that happens in the formation of your foreign policy. Whosoever is your leader at any point in time determines to a very great extent the direction of your foreign policy.
Yeah.
So the fear is legitimate. It doesn't mean that the president is also wrong or the federal government is also wrong to have entered into partnership. Nigeria is a very big country. The advice we only give to them is that, give to people in power is that, let's begin to create system instead of empowering individuals. When you create system that restrict you from taking some certain decisions and action, it's going to help your community to grow. But as we have it today, it is about individualism. Unfortunately, if I get there, my mindset will determine both the pace of the government and the progress of the community, which exactly I want to believe that the president, you have seen with the visit often to France, I want to believe that the president has some relationship with France as a country, or let me say, a soft spot for the government at the moment in France. And I think this is beginning to play out here and there. And that does not negate the fact that as the giant of Africa that we are, we can look at the direction of any nation and see how we can benefit from any bilateral talks or agreement.
Okay, now let's move over to the Daily Trust newspaper. The conversation about bilateral talks between Nigeria and France, I think they're still ongoing. They're not ending anytime soon. And another conversation that doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon is Atiku and Obi. 2027 Atiku Obi's parley in Yola reignites major permutations. So with all that's been happening in the Labour Party, the court has approved Julius Abure as the official party chairman. Meanwhile, prior to the court's decision, Obi and OT have gone ahead to set up a caretaker committee, transition committee led by Senator Nadi Usman. What do you foresee? Do you think that right now, or what would you advise if you had the opportunity to advise, that Obi remains in the Labour Party and tries to run under the umbrella. Remember that Julius Abure said they will no longer give the sole ticket to Obi at the next elections, that it will be open for all to contest. So do you think that Obi should stay in the Labour Party, or maybe the strength or the possibility of actually merging with Atiku will further strengthen his chances?
Okay, so, and I'm going to bring a bit of political experience into this. When I was sitting as the chairman of a political party, one of the things that I found out is that the government in power will not allow any party to just continue to flourish when that party has the capacity of dislodging them. And I will say more than that, and that's the crisis you see here and there. And the second thing that always...
So what you are saying without actually saying is that the crisis in the Labour Party is engineered?
If you interpret my statement that way. Now let's continue quickly. It's also the fact that one of the reasons why people out of power will continue to find it very extremely difficult to get into power is selfishness and thinking that one person is better than everybody. Until opposition in Nigeria gets the message very clearly that when people come together, we have 19 political parties. It used to be 18. Now there's an approval for the youth party, making it 19. We have 19 political parties in Nigeria. Until a reasonable number of them come together, form an alliance, they may not be able to dislodge the party in power. Unfortunately, anyone who runs for election is running with the belief that they can either make money, make progress, or make it to the position. And so at that point in time, it's always not logical for merger to happen. And that's why till tomorrow, I want to respect the political ingenuity of the sitting president of Nigeria. If he had not sacrificed his ambition to become the vice president of Nigeria, today he will not be sitting as the president. That's the character that all other good politicians do not have. I want to be the one that want to lead the party. I want to be the president. And you continue to run. Let me tell you, running for election or running a political party is one of the most difficult things I've done. Why do I say so? We just finished election in Ondo State. The day you drop your pen and you say, oh, I've ended the election, that same day, you must begin permutation for the next election. For 2027, it's a bit almost too late for Obi to now begin to go to another political party and start afresh.
Have you forgotten that he joined the Labour Party at a very late hour?
And that is why he was unable to get his polling unit agent across the board. You see, for you to win election in Nigeria, one of the things you have to get is you must have a representative. Our democracy is growing. It's not yet perfect. It is not at the level where you will not have a polling unit agent in a place, and you will expect that that particular place, they will return your vote. See, the capacity of Obi is not in question. He's been able to disrupt the political atmosphere in Nigeria, and he's been able to completely rewrite what people thought was impossible. But again, I think talking about 2027 and 2025 is a bit too late, looking at it from political eye. But staying in Labour Party again is also becoming a bit rancorous because he does not even have control over the current party structure of his own party. And that's why Alex Otti has suddenly become a very wise politician. You know what happened in the last local government election? Yeah. Zenith Labour Party won about 16. The Young Progressives Party won about 2. That's a political communication. Sending a message to his community that in the next election, I may not run under the Labour Party. I may actually be running under the Zenith Labour or the YPP, or both of them working together to present me as a candidate. Whichever way, he's been able to make a statement that Obi is dragging his feet from making. And you know what? It's becoming a bit too late.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, time will tell, you know. I mean, and they have their own internal battles that they would fight. You know, one of their House of Reps member for Etiosa, if you remember, was wearing the APC, you know, the known APC insignia cap a couple of days ago, and he was called out for it. You know, it wouldn't be surprising to hear that he also has dumped the party and moved to another party, as it is common in Nigeria. Let's talk about the Port Harcourt refinery. It says local operation begins. Marketers oppose 1,030 naira per litre price. But it's not just about this story. It's also about the story that emerged over the weekend, saying that the refinery was not actually producing or didn't have any, you know, petrol
to dispense.
To dispense.
Yes. One of the reasons why they came up with this statement was that he made the run, and community leader in that area, a community leader actually came out to say, man, what I saw, he didn't look as if they were dispensing fuel. But one of the things that I do for my country daily is to believe my leader, even when it doesn't make sense to believe them. And I think I've got to a point where I don't want to be too skeptical. So any press statement that comes, I question it. I look at it very critically, but I do not have the, I have lost the energy of coming out outrightly to say my leaders lie. Because one of the things that democracy has given us is ability to speak. But speaking for development is more important than speaking for division. And most of the time in philosophy, in Yoruba philosophy, they say an investigator always dies a miserable death. So sometimes we just look at the story and we believe and move on. Whatever it is that they have said, the first thing is that it's not logical at this point in time to dispense a liter of fuel for 1,030 naira. And it's also not logical at this moment to think that we want to score any political point by saying the refinery is working while it is not working. It's also not logical. And thirdly, I think the federal government also should be more concerned about lifting people out of their dependence on fuel, rather than also limiting their ambition into making fuel available. Our 3 refineries combined together have the capacity of producing a bit less than 480 barrels per day to refine 480,000 barrels per day. Our consumption rate in Nigeria should be around between 50 to 60 million liters per day. It means that if we put all of these things together, will we be able to feed for our internal consumption, not taking away our ability to also generate forex from export. All of these are happening. I'm so glad that the federal government says that they have pushed our production to about 2 million barrels per day. When all of these, truthfully, if that is the case, when all of these balance out,
2025,
yes,
2025
yes.
budget is still, 1,400 barrels per day projection.
Yeah, that's what we have. I'm just believing that before the end of 2025, we'll hit that 2 million so that we can have excess money to be able to support our currency, and our naira will be a bit more valuable than what it is today. Whichever way, I want the government to know, because one of the challenges we have with governance in Nigeria is speaking to the people from the place of truth, rather than speaking to them from the place of achieving any political point. So with all of this put together, the advice is very clear. If the refinery is working, please work towards ensuring that people don't get to lift fuel for 1,030 naira. I want to believe that it's working. And I also want to believe that before the end of the year, we have our 2 million barrel per day production.
If that would be selling on 970, what would you expect the NNPC to sell? At least if it's getting from the Port Harcourt refinery.
Okay, I was thinking that starting at 950 will not be a bad idea, and that will further force the capitalists down a bit. So that's my expectation, though. I wasn't expecting that we have 1,030 naira. Having said that, too, I'm still very hopeful.
Dr. Ojo, we are hopeful alongside with you. Thank you very much for your time.
Please don't rely on my hope.
Which hope do you? Anyway, if we can't rely on your hope, we can rely on the renewed hope.
Yeah.
That's all that we can take this morning for the conversation. We'll go on a very quick break. When we come back, we have more conversations. Stay with us.
In a report released in March 2024, the Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa, CSEA, revealed that Nigeria loses about $18 billion annually to financial crimes and corrupt procurement processes. It stated that an estimated 60% of corruption cases in Nigeria are from the procurement process. Now, just last week, the Auditor General of the Federation also revealed fraud and irregular payments for contracts totaling over 197 billion naira across various ministries, departments, and agencies between 2021 and 2022. Another, alarming revelation in the report was a sum of 167.59 billion naira paid for jobs or contracts that were either partially executed or not executed at all. Now, the reason I'm starting with this, data is to express the amount of stealing that goes on in different MDAs across Nigeria every year. Nigerians normally are strongly fixated on the allegations of theft by politicians. Governors are accused of stealing tens to hundreds of billions of naira. Nigerians are constantly criticizing the EFCC for its failures in arresting and prosecuting political leaders. But arguably, from these reports, civil servants and heads of government agencies steal even more, or maybe the same, every year. $18 billion annually, according to that report. It means that your fathers and mothers are stealing from Nigeria as well. Fake contracts, inflated contract figures, ghost workers, fake business places scattered across Lagos, if you know, used to launder money. Now, these things are not done by politicians alone, or governors, or National Assembly members that we all have this, vitriol for. But they're done by different civil servants in MDAs across Nigeria. Yes, politicians might be corrupt, but your daddy might be a thief as well. The money used to build that mansion back at home is likely stolen government money. Your school fees for that university in England is also likely, funded by stolen government funds. And you and I know that, he doesn't earn that much to afford the life that you and your siblings live. Now, corruption isn't a tree. It's more like a forest. Politicians may be at just the tallest trees in that forest, but below them are the rest of Nigerians, civil servants, heads of government agencies, principals, vice chancellors, staff, of private MDAs, private individuals. These are the branches, the roots, and the leaves that are nurturing and sustaining this toxic ecosystem of corruption. Again, your fathers and mothers, friends, siblings, they equally are stealing heavily from Nigeria as well. We have normalized corruption so much that honesty feels like rebellion. And I'm sorry to break it to you that we must demand transparency, not just from our leaders, but from ourselves. Our country is bleeding. The country is hemorrhaging, and at this point, we must point fingers in all directions where it is leaking from. Again, corruption isn't a tree. It is a forest with different, leaves, branches, and plants. And those leaves joined together seem to be stealing more than the trees themselves. Good morning, Nigerians.
The indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, has dissociated itself from a purported declaration of the Biafra Republic by a Finland-based group. In a statement issued by IPOB's spokesman, Ima Powerful, the group described the declaration as a scam. According to Powerful, the individuals involved in the declaration in Finland are among the sponsors of insecurity in Nigeria's southeast region. Their agenda, he said, is to destabilize the southeast, divide the people, cause panic, and divert the attention of Biafrans and those sympathetic to the Biafran struggle. Now, this comes as the supporters of the Finland-based self-acclaimed Biafran Prime Minister Simon Ekpa converged in Finland last Friday to declare the United States of Biafra.
Now, here in Nigeria, the IPOB emphasized that there is no room for another Biafran declaration besides the one that its leader, the late Dimegu Ojukwu, declared in 1967. The group called for a United Nations supervised referendum for Biafrans to restore the sovereignty of the declared Biafran independence. Joining us is legal practitioner and managing partner of Abdul Salam Abbas and co Farouk Abbas. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I think first of all, just get a broad picture of your thoughts when you see that the United States of Biafra has been declared. Is that the way it works? Can a nation just be declared like that? Or is there, other legal requirements for it to make some sense?
Thank you very much for your question. When I saw the news, it was a bit comical to me. In point of fact, I didn't watch the video until whilst preparing for this interview. And it's, of course, that's not the way nations are being declared. There are procedures to having a nation. And like a nation like Nigeria, the foundation of our country is our constitution. Yeah. And for you to recognize the president or a leader of a country, it must be backed up by the law. The Constitution of Nigeria establishes the office of the president. So the president traces his power to the Constitution. The requirements for being a president is stated in the Constitution. The geographical location constituting Nigeria is also stated. The procedures for adding states to the federation are stated there. The procedures for expanding the boundaries are stated there.
Yeah.
And the Constitution also has a very fundamental provision in the sense that it states that power belongs to the people, sovereignty belongs to the people, and the government derives this sovereignty from the Constitution. So before you can have a declaration of any nation, there must be sovereignty, there must be a group of people who have come together and who have all agreed that, okay, this is what we want to do, and it must be backed up by law. You can't just have, or maybe by war, or maybe after you've fought, when you have a civil war and we agree, or you negotiate, you know. But for a group of people to just sit down in their bedroom anywhere, I mean, we can as well sit down here and declare a Republic of Farouk Abbas, you know. So it's not, it's a circus, that's not the procedure to go about it. But I mean, it's not unusual for people to have these sort of agitations, you know, because for every action, there must be a reason. I like to look at the psychology of action. I don't just like to criticize people for saying they are doing this and that they are a bunch of jokers or they are criminals. I don't act that way. We should ask ourselves, why are they doing this? Do they have a legitimate request? Okay, how do we address it? How do we come together and discuss with them? You know, so those are the kind of approach I like to see. Yeah. But of course, what they've done is a comical action.
Is there any legal implication to that, especially for Nigerians who maybe will support these people? There are Nigerians who traveled to Finland to show their support for the United States of Biafra. Is there any legal implication of their actions?
Oh, certainly. Because, you know, we have the Terrorism Prevention Act in Nigeria, and what they've done is a form of attempt to destabilize the country, is a form of harassment, or intimidation of people who are Nigerians, or only because they listed out some states in their country, in the Biafra, and those states are Nigeria, you know, so they might cause chaos. And the Terrorism Act says that if you take any action to damage a country, to intimidate a country, to destroy the country, it's to be regarded as an act of terrorism. And if you provide support for them, if you provide counsel for them, if you provide invitation for them, if you go for meetings, attend their meetings or provide support in their meetings, is an offense that is punishable by life imprisonment, a minimum of 20 years imprisonment. So it's a criminal offense because what they are doing is affecting the integrity, the sovereignty of Nigeria, and it can cause chaos in the country because now we can say, okay, who is my president? Is it the prime minister, the lady, whatever she calls herself, or President Bola Tinubu? We can start saying the police stops you on the road. I'm not going to stop. You are not wearing Biafra uniform. We are in Biafra Republic. So it's a very serious issue. It's not a laughing matter. So another fundamental provision in the law is that if you carry out action, normally if you commit a crime, they'll say within the jurisdiction where you committed the crime. But for terrorism, it's extraterritorial. If you commit it outside Nigeria, you can also be tried in Nigeria. So what they are doing, they're playing with jail term if they ever come back to Nigeria.
I mean, so there's people who would also argue that the Nigerian government has also mismanaged, you know, the whole conversation concerning the IPOB and the whole Biafra conversation. The long incarceration of Nnamdi Kanu, the refusal to even have conversations, you know, I mean, have any conversations with these people to understand what their, you know, requests are, what their grievances are, and somewhat. So do you agree with that? In 20, I think it's 2017 or 20, I'm not sure what year now, when the group was proscribed, it also came with criticism that this isn't the way to handle these issues. Do you agree with that the Nigerian government could have done this better?
Oh, yes, I agree that in the past it wasn't properly managed because the truth is, as Nigerians, we have to be very sincere, we have to be very objective, regardless of our tribe, regardless of our political affiliations. They have a genuine cause, you know. If a group of people don't feel carried along very well, they can ask that they want to have a referendum. They can say they want, you know. So if you look at it from 1999 to date, they've not had a president, they've not had a vice president, you know. So they've mismanaged their political strategy, you know. So based on that, some of them will be feeling agitated. And of course, they went through a very painful civil war, you know, and they lost in the civil war. They lost several people, you know, so they feel like, are we really Nigerians? So I think what the government ought to do, and which is what this government is currently doing, is that you need to carry them along. You need to try and integrate with them, and you need to discuss with them. And I think the president is doing a good job. I mean, he just appointed the wife of the proponent of Biafra, the #1 proponent of Biafra, the late Odumegwu Ojukwu, as a minister. I believe that's a step in the right direction. The former chairman of ABGA is a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That's a step in the right direction. But what I believe the government should do is that because the duty for national integration lies on the president. It's a constitutional provision. So I think in furtherance of that duty, what the government should do is they should engage these people. Because before you fight with anyone, before you go to court, I'm a dispute resolution lawyer, we need to try and explore amicable resolution. Then when you try amicable resolution and you can't resolve the crisis, then we can now go to court. So I think these people have...
I agree. You know what, appointing Bianca is not necessarily you know, to
soothe
the wounds of, you know, these
No, you know,
people. I don't necessarily.
You know, there has to be a rapprochement. There has to be a rapprochement. You can't just, people you have not been engaging with, you have to start from somewhere. Is number one, when during the Biafra struggle, she was the center of it with her husband. She knew all those people, they have access to her and all that. So she will be giving the government advice because they have to reach out. And then reaching out, you have to look for mediator, you have to look for people who they trust, who they can listen to.
But I think the point I'm trying to make is that she, you know, by herself is a fantastic person.
Okay, I get you.
In terms of she was probably appointed because she had
about personal merit.
Yes.
Oh no, of course, no. I agree with you. But you know, there are always undertones to all these things as well.
Let's talk about Simon Ekpa. There are those who have been calling for his extradition, but part of the argument would be that there's probably no agreement between both countries that would enable that to happen, and his trial has been set for May 2025. Now, whilst you were speaking, you mentioned that what can happen is that a number of those Nigerians could face the potential of being tried if they return to Nigeria. So is this maybe a path? Do you think that maybe in the next few months the government can enter into conversations with the government of Finland about bringing Simon Ekpa back home to try? And, you know, what do you think that the implications of that will be?
Yes, I believe that the proper thing, the federal government is going to have discussions with them, because the mere fact that if the government of Finland arrested him, they didn't do it on their own volition. They must have been given information, complaints must have been made, because he's a citizen of Finland, he's a politician in Finland, he ran for elections in Finland, so they can't on their own arrest him. Yeah. So I believe that the mere fact that he was arrested is a good step in the right direction, and it shows that eventually he's coming back home. Even if we don't have treaties between Nigeria and Finland, there's diplomacy, we can have discussions, and because the purpose of that trial is to protect Nigerian sovereignty and to prevent breakdown of law and order. Every country has a duty to support each other when it comes to sharing intelligence to prevent breakdown of law and order. So I believe that regardless of the fact that his trial has been fixed for May next year, I believe that the proper thing to do is that he's going to be sent back to Nigeria, because the consequences of his actions are being felt in Nigeria, not in Finland. So the proper place to try him is in Nigeria.
Alleged consequences of his actions. You know, he's not been found guilty of anything. But I mean, again, it brings me back to the way that we've managed, you know, the whole crisis. You know, if the Nigerian government had been more sensitive, I believe, to the requests, to the pain that these persons were expressing, the reasons for their grievances over time, people would say that it maybe would have gotten this far. Look at the way that the Nnamdi Kanu's case has been handled as well. It's not in any way helping matters, don't you think?
Well, I don't agree with you, because I mean, Nnamdi Kanu, you know, when you're advocating for a cause, you must be willing to pay the price for that cause, and that's what makes you a leader. That's what makes you have credibility. He was released on bail, and he jumped his bail, and even after jumping his bail, he didn't just keep quiet. He kept on.
Yeah, but his argument is that the army attacked his home.
Yeah, then you go back to court. We're not in a banana republic. You go back to court. So, but I believe that there's going to be some discussions, because we need a political solution to this crisis. We can't resolve it either by law or by force or by military and all that. We are going to come back to the table. But before you come to the table, if you're not prepared for war, you can't negotiate. So the best way to go for a negotiation is to be actually prepared for war. So the government has to be very strong. They need to let them know that they are going to be able to deal with anybody who tries to repeat that sort of action. But eventually, I believe that the government will be taking certain steps to resolve the crisis. I mean, I saw a senator from Abia State or so advocating for his release. I know Ohaneze Ndigbo are advocating for his release. And I know the president is a listening president. He knows how to manage human resources and all that. So I believe that eventually he's going to look into it. And I don't think anybody can blame the federal government for what is happening so far. Look at our elections in 2023. The Southeast is the only place where no political party other than Labour Party had over 50,000 votes, except APC in Imo State. Every other party were having 9,000. It was a landslide victory. So it's a step in the right direction. That's the first time that is happening in Nigeria. So you can't just say you want power and you get it within 2 years or 3 years. So they've made their mark. Let them go back to the drawing board and expand their coast to other parts of the country. Yeah. So allowing them to vote and declaring their results with that kind of moonslide, if there's any such word, victory, is a step in the right direction. It's a step in the right direction. We are giving them the opportunity, and they didn't manage it very well. If Peter Obi had stayed with PDP and he had stayed with Atiku, perhaps we won't be saying what we're saying.
When you say giving them the opportunity, yes, it sounds like, I mean, it's a favor that is being done them. It is their right. If they, want to, they are as much Nigerian as any other tribe, as any other ethnicity or political party. So I don't know it does sound somehow when we say we are giving them an opportunity.
No, why I said that is, the narrative is that, oh, everybody is against us. Everybody is against us. And we're saying, no, we are embracing, we are carrying everybody along. If you're saying everybody is not, if we are against you, then it means that the rights some people are enjoying, you are not enjoying the rights. So what I mean is that there was an election, everybody was given the right to vote, and you exercise that right. Nobody stopped you. Assuming they stopped you from...
But, I mean, they were stopped from voting in Lagos.
Well, I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of that. I just saw newspaper. I saw some.
You're not aware of that.
Well, I'm not aware.
I mean, there was a very popular video of MC Olomo threatening people from Iyachukwudi's
we saw those,
come out to vote.
We saw those videos.
There was violence that was meted against people who were coming out, who were their polling units, and it was targeted against the same ethnic
Yeah, we saw those videos. Some people, yes, those are. MC Olomo is an agent of government. Some people go out of their way to make certain incendiary remarks. When they make those remarks, governments can go after them.
But the government didn't go after them.
And it's not just that the government didn't go after them. There are people who are currently working on that. And this is not indicting anybody. I just want to lay out the fact. There are people currently working on that governor, the executive governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who, left to them, their main reason for being there is to be anti-IPOB or to, destroy all the IPOB or the, Igbo sentiments, online. So it feels like the whole foundation of these people's election campaign in 2023 was simply, targeting the Igbos. So it's, and you cannot deny, that those things exist.
Some people, in any society, there will be people who are ultra, there will be conservatives, there will be liberals. And what I'm saying is that those people are not agents of government. Where they exist,
I'm talking about the aides of the government.
Then where those exist, then the government should call them to order. The governor should call them to order.
What the criticism leveled against the government has been the fact that, yes, we know that you can't control every utterance, statement, or action that citizens in the country will, make or do. However, where it is something that incites or something that is discriminatory against another ethnicity, the government should swing into action. For example, Oluomo's case. When Oluomo's video went viral, I think the response to that was, it should be taken as a joke or something like that.
That's what the police
they didn't take any action. Lagospedia came up, put out a tweet. The government dissociated itself from Lagospedia, but no arrests were made. And part of the conversation was that if it was, a number of the Igbo people were saying that if it was someone from their camp, they would have fished out who Lagospedia is, and he would have been brought to.
I quite agree with you on that. Because like I said, it's a legitimate request. Yeah. So how do we manage that request? Is by letting the government know that we have to caution people making all these sort of incendiary remarks or making all these sort of allegations. Because whether we like it or not, the Igbos are part of our community. They're part of our society. Yeah. I'm a professional. I have clients who are Igbos. I have friends who are Igbos. So we have gone, and if we must disintegrate, it must be through the process of the law. We have a Senate, let them amend the Constitution to call for a referendum, or let everybody agree to a referendum. And if you really want to leave, then let us, I don't believe nothing is negotiable, it's not negotiable. I don't believe in that. We should come to the table. And if anybody is doing it, then the government should call them to order and sanction them, because it will promote, if there's violence in the country, it's going to affect all of us. They won't say whether you are Yoruba or you are Hausa or whatever, it's going to affect us. So our duty should be to protect our country and to prevent all those who are making those sort of remarks from making those sort of remarks.
Farouk Abbas, thank you so much for your time with us and speaking so intelligently about this conversation. Really, there's a lot that needs to be done, and we really need to return to the negotiation table. We do hope that the government is listening and that what needs to be done is done. But that's our package for you this morning. We'll be heading out of the studio. There are more shows coming up. Please don't tune off. My name is Olive Emodi, and I'll see you tomorrow.
And I am Osaogie Ogbawa. See you tomorrow.